During World War II, something unusual happened. As cities were bombed, supply lines collapsed, and fertilizer became impossible to find, ordinary families began growing more food than many modern industrial farms grow today. Not a little more, not slightly better yields. In many cases, 3 times more. No chemical fertilizer, no synthetic inputs, no modern machinery, just soil. And the unsettling part isn't that this happened, it's that almost no one knows about it. Because the methods behind these harvests didn't fade away naturally, they didn't disappear with time, they were quietly erased. Not because they failed, but because they worked too well. In this video, I'm going to show you the soil system that fed entire communities during World War II, a system so effective it threatened an entire industry. A system that costs nothing, regenerates itself, and still outperforms modern fertilizers today. And by the end, you'll understand exactly why it was buried for more than 80 years. Before we go any further, if you care about forgotten knowledge, living soil, and the natural systems powerful industries would rather you never rediscover, subscribe now to Buried Nature Archive. This channel exists to protect what was deliberately erased. Now let's talk about why this matters right now. This isn't just history. This is about what happens when the system stops working. Fertilizer prices are rising worldwide. Soil health is collapsing. Food is less nutritious than it was decades ago. And supply chains, as we've all seen, are fragile. Modern agriculture depends on constant inputs. When the bags stop coming, the system breaks. But during World War II, there were no bags to rely on. And that forced people to remember something modern agriculture has forgotten. They weren't trying to be sustainable. They weren't trying to be organic. They were trying to survive. By the early 1940s, food shortages were everywhere. Cities were bombed, farms were destroyed, transportation networks fell apart. Chemical fertilizers were unavailable. Factories were focused on weapons, not food. So families turned their backyards into survival gardens. They planted in rubble, in courtyards, in bombed-out lots. These became known as Victory Gardens, and at their peak, more than 20 million households were growing food this way. And here's the part that rarely gets mentioned. They weren't guessing. They weren't improvising blindly. They followed a soil system that had been quietly refined for generations, one that worked with biology instead of fighting it. After the war ended, something else happened. The same factories that once produced explosives were converted to produce fertilizer. Ammonium nitrate didn't disappear, it was simply rebranded. By 1947, the modern fertilizer industry was born, and it depended on one thing above all else: dependency. A system that regenerates its own fertility can't be patented. You can't trademark soil bacteria, and you can't sell something people don't need to buy again. So agricultural education changed. Soil biology vanished from textbooks. Extension services stopped teaching biological methods, not because they didn't work, but because they made the industry unnecessary. Now, let me show you what was buried. The first secret is so simple it almost sounds foolish. Wartime gardeners were dealing with exhausted soil, land that had been overworked, bombed, stripped bare. Nothing wanted to grow anymore. Modern thinking says you fix that with fertilizer. They did the opposite. Instead of pulling dead plants out at the end of the season, they cut them at soil level and left them exactly where they were. No clearing, no hauling, no compost piles somewhere else. The plants stayed put. As they broke down, they fed billions of soil organisms, bacteria, fungi, protozoa, which turned dead plant matter into nutrients living plants could actually use. With each season, the soil grew richer instead of poorer. That layer of plant residue protected the ground. Rain stopped washing away topsoil. Moisture stayed locked beneath the surface. Weeds struggled to germinate. USDA tracking during the war showed gardens using this method produced far higher yields than chemically managed plots. After the war, this method quietly disappeared, because when soil feeds itself, no one needs to buy fertilizer. The second secret addressed an even deeper issue. In many places, the soil wasn't just tired, it was dead. Bombing, erosion, and years of poor farming had wiped out the microbial life that makes soil work. The solution came from the forest. Gardeners collected small handfuls of rich forest soil, the dark, crumbly earth beneath layers of leaves, and introduced it into their gardens. Not truckloads, just a few handfuls. That soil was alive. Every gram contained billions of organisms designed to build fertility. Once introduced, those organisms multiplied rapidly. They spread. They rebuilt soil structure. Within a single season, dirt that couldn't grow anything came back to life. This method was never scaled commercially because it couldn't be sold. Once biology is established, it sustains itself. The third secret was growing plants together instead of isolating them. Modern agriculture favors monoculture, one plant, one row, one purpose. Wartime gardeners revived something much older. Corn, beans, and squash grown together. Corn grew tall and became a living support. Beans climbed the stalks and pulled nitrogen from the air. Squash spread across the soil, shading it and locking in moisture. Below the surface, fungal networks connected all three, allowing them to share nutrients and chemical signals. These gardens used less water, required no fertilizer, and produced more calories per square foot than single-crop plantings. After the war, this system was dismissed as folklore, because plants that fertilize each other don't need products. The fourth secret addressed an even deeper issue. In damp wartime climates, fungal infections wiped out crops quickly. Instead of spraying chemicals, gardeners brewed compost tea. Finished compost was soaked in water, allowing beneficial organisms to multiply into the billions. That liquid was poured onto soil and sprayed onto leaves. Beneficial microbes colonized plant surfaces, crowding out disease before it could take hold. Gardens treated this way resisted blight while neighboring plots failed. Chemical fungicides later replaced this approach, not because they worked better, but because they killed everything. The fifth secret was simple: never leave soil bare. After harvest, gardens were planted with clover or rye. These cover crops protected the soil through winter, fixed nitrogen, fed microbes, and prevented erosion. When spring arrived, they were cut and left in place, becoming mulch above ground and organic matter below. Soil biology fed all winter exploded back to life. Seed companies stopped promoting cover crops because there was no profit in plants you didn't sell. The final secret was independence itself, seed saving. Families saved seeds from the strongest plants each year, the ones that survived drought, disease, and poor soil. Those seeds adapted to local conditions. Over time, home-saved varieties outperformed commercial ones. When refugees fled cities, they carried seeds, not money. After the war, hybrid seeds replaced savable varieties. Farmers became dependent on annual purchases. These methods weren't primitive, they were better. Synthetic fertilizers extract wealth until nothing remains. Biological systems compound fertility year after year. Industrial agriculture creates dependency. Living soil creates freedom. Today, regenerative farmers and permaculture growers are quietly rediscovering what was buried. They're building soil instead of buying it. What was erased is returning, not because it was remembered, but because results can only be ignored for so long. Two kinds of people will always exist: those who wait for systems to save them, and those who already know how to feed themselves. This channel is for the second group. If this knowledge matters to you, subscribe to Buried Nature Archive. Share this with anyone who still thinks soil is just dirt. Because the soil is still alive, the seeds are still waiting, and the knowledge was never gone, only buried. And we're here to uncover all of it.